Hello, welcome to the Papyrus Global Television. This is the Papyrus Sunday News Round, the recap of the week. Over the past 7 days, Nigeria has witnessed development that continue to shape national discourse, from political tension and diplomatic engagement to economic pressure, security operations, legislative debates, judicial proceedings, and key moments in business, entertainment, and sports. Tonight we bring you a comprehensive review of stories that mattered, the decision taken, the lives affected, and the issues demanding national attention. I am Dope Fan Damster Justin. Thank you for joining us. Let's go over the headlines now. Military officers faced court-martial over alleged coal plot. SMEs struggle with rising operating costs across major cities. Fresh kidnapping attacks rock Kaduna State, dozens adopted. Courts resume high-profile court-related trial and human rights lawsuit. Nollywood and music industry call for stronger regulation and funding. Super Eagles intensify preparation ahead of international fixture. Let's begin. On the political scene, the Nigerian military this week confirmed the commencement of court-martial proceeding against 16 senior military officers over their alleged involvement in a plot to destabilize the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. According to Defense Headquarters sources in Abuja, the officers were arrested following months of internal intelligence surveillance with the armed forces. Military authorities say the alleged plot was uncovered through routine counterintelligence monitoring aimed at protecting constitutional order. Amongst those indicted is Brigadier General Musa Abubakar Sadiq, identified as the most senior officers implicated. Others include Colonel M.A. Ma'aji, Lieutenant Colonel S. Bapa, A.A. Hayatu, Dangnang, and M. Almakura, as well as Major A.J. Ibrahim, M.M. Jida, and M.A. Usman, alongside other officers drawn from Army, Navy, and Air Force. Military sources say the changes relate to action considered inconsistent with service discipline and loyalty to democratic governance. While 16 officers are currently facing formal proceedings, investigations are ongoing, with indications that additional personnel may be questioned over alleged logistical or coordination roles. The Defense Headquarters emphasized that the court-martial process reflects the armed forces' commitment to professionalism, accountability, and respect for civilian authorities. Public concern heightened this week following confirmation of the alleged coal plot, especially against the backdrop of recent military takeover in parts of West Africa and earlier conflicting reports surrounding the case. In response, the presidency moved to reassure Nigerians that the country's democratic institutions remain stable and fully in control. Although no single presidential aide addressed the nation in a televised briefing, official communication from the State House, supported by clarification from the Defense Headquarters, stressed that there is no threat to constitutional governance. Speaking on the issue, Major General Samaila Uba, spokesperson of the Defense Headquarters, confirmed that the matter is being handled strictly within military legal framework and that loyalty to the constitution remains absolute within the armed forces. Presidential sources in Abuja also cautioned Nigerians against misinformation, urging citizens to rely on verified information and avoid narrative capable of inciting fear or unrest. Nigeria has recorded a major diplomatic development this week as President Bola Ahmed Tinubu held high-level talk with Turkish leadership in Ankara. The engagement was led on the Turkish side by President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who hosted President Tinubu and his delegation for discussions centered on defense cooperation, infrastructure development, trade expansion, and security collaboration. Both leaders announced a shared target of increasing bilateral trade between Nigeria and Turkey to $5 billion annually, focusing on sectors such as manufacturing, construction, textile, and defense technology. While full details of Nigerians' delegation were not publicly itemized, the visit involved senior officials responsible for foreign affairs, trade, defense, and economic planning. Officials described Turkey as a strategic partner, particularly in military hardware production and infrastructure development. Opposition parties intensified criticism of the federal government this week through separate political engagement and public statements. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, a leading figure of the People's Democratic Party, accused the Tinubu administration of shrinking democratic space and tightening restrictions on dissent ahead of 2027 general election. He made the remark during a public address, warning that economic hardship and governance challenges could deepen public discontent. In Rivers State, opposition parties also publicly distanced themselves from the so-called Rainbow Coalition, clarifying that they are not aligned with any political bloc associated with the government. Across the separate event, opposition figures raised concern over inflation, insecurity, rising cost of living, and what they describe as inadequate consultation with citizens on major national policies. Governors from 7 northern states converged in Kaduna City this weekend for a high-level meeting on insecurity. States represented include Kaduna, Borno, Niger, Kano, and Plateau, all facing challenges linked to banditry, insurgency, and mass kidnapping. Governor Obasani of Kaduna State, who hosted the meeting, stressed that insecurity remained the greatest threat to development in the region. He called for the stronger interstate collaboration and deeper engagement with federal security agencies. Discussions focused on strengthening intelligence sharing, joint security operations, and adopting community-based policies. Discussions focused on strengthening intelligence sharing, joint security operations, and adopting community-based policing approaches to counter criminal network operation across the state boundaries. The governor agreed that sustained regional cooperation is essential to restoring peace and stability. From politics, we now turn to the economy, where Nigerians continue to grapple with inflation, currency pressures, and market fluctuation. Small and medium-scale business owners in Aba, Lagos, Onitsha, Port Harcourt said rising electricity, tariff fuel costs, and logistics expenses are affecting profitability. Many SME operators said they are forced to scale down operation or pass costs to consumers. Business associations have renewed call for improved access to affordable credit and reliable power supply. Meanwhile, the Nigerian exchange closed the week on a positive note, recording significant gain estimated at over 190 billion naira market capitalization. Market analysts attribute the rebound to renewed investors' confidence, particularly in banking and industrial stock. The development comes after a week of volatility, offering cautious optimism for investors and market watchers. Across major cities, including Lagos, Ibadan, Onitsha, and Port Harcourt, Nigerians continue to grapple with rising prices of food, transportation, and basic household items. Market surveys show increases in cost of rice, bread, cooking gas, and fuel pricing, placing additional strain on household budgets. Economists warn that inflationary pressure may persist until structural reform yields tangible relief. The federal government has reaffirmed its commitment to ongoing economic reform aimed at stabilizing Nigeria's economy. Speaking on the reform agenda, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, said the measures, though painful in short terms, are necessary to restore fiscal discipline, drive long-term economic growth, and rebuild investors' confidence. Edun acknowledged that the reforms have placed pressure on households and businesses, but stressed that abandoning them now will worsen economic stability and undermine future recovery. He added that social intervention programs are currently being reviewed to ensure that vulnerable Nigerians are adequately supported as government works to balance economic adjustment with social protection. The Nigerians' performance remained under close watch this week, with fluctuations recorded in both officials and parallel markets. Financial experts note that exchange rate instability continues to affect import-dependent sectors, particularly manufacturing and retail. The Central Bank of Nigeria assures stakeholders of continued intervention to stabilize the currency. Discussion continued this week over fuel supply and pricing across the country. While fuel remains available in most urban cities, price disparities persist across states. Industry players say logistics, transportation costs, and exchange rate pressures contribute to price variations. Nigeria's banking sector dominated trading activities on the Nigerian exchange this week, with shares of Zenith Bank, GTCO, Access Holding, UBA, and First Bank Holdings recording strong investors' demand. Market analysts at Codros Security, FBN Quest, and Afri Invest attributed the trend to expectations of robust full-year earnings, improved interest income, and the sector's resilience amid ongoing economic reform. The analyst noted that high interest rates, foreign exchange revaluation gains, and strengthening capital buffers have positioned top-tier banks to weather current microeconomic pressure better than other sectors. They added that continued investors' interest reflects confidence in the banking sector's ability to deliver strong return despite broader economic headwinds. On a positive note, Nigeria is witnessing renewed interest for foreign investors with fresh inquiries targeting key sectors such as agriculture, renewable energy, and solid minerals. Investment promotion agencies said the uptick in attention reflects growing confidence in Nigerians' long-term fundamentals, even as short-term economic challenges persist. The Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, NIPC, confirmed that several foreign firms from Europe, the Middle East, and Asia have recently initiated exploratory talk, visibility studies, and partnership discussion, particularly in large-scale agro-business, solar and wind energy projects, and mineral extraction. According to the Executive Secretary of the NIPC, Aisha Remi, investors are increasingly drawn by Nigerians' vast consumer market for over 200 million people, its strategic position in West Africa, and the depth of its natural and human resources. In agriculture, interest is focused on food processing, agro-export value chains, irrigation system, and mechanism farming as global investors seek alternative to disruptive supply routes and rising food insecurity worldwide. Renewable energy has also emerged as a major attraction, with foreign firms exploring solar mini-grid, utility-scale solar farms, wind projection, and clear energy financing model. Analysts said Nigerians' economic deficit, combined with global climate financing and carbon reduction commitment, is making the sector increasingly attractive despite infrastructure gaps. In the mining sectors, investors are targeting lithium, gold, limestone, and other critical minerals, encouraged by government efforts to formalize artisanal mining, improve license transparency, and curb illegal export. However, officials acknowledge that investors' confidence remain cautious. The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Doris Uzoka Anite, says while inquiries have increased, converting interest into actual capital inflow will depend on policy consistency, improved security, regulatory clarity, and sustained foreign exchange reform. She noticed that the recent step to liberalize the foreign exchange market, improve profit repatriation processes, and strengthen investment protections are beginning to reshape investors' perception of Nigeria. Economic analyst says the renewed interest does not yet amount to a full rebound in foreign direct investment, but signals a shift from wait and see to cautious re-engagement. They warn that persistent inflation, infrastructure deficit, and security concerns could still slow deal closures if not addressed. For now, investment authorities insist Nigeria remain open for business, banking on reforms market size, and resource wealth to turn renewed interest into long-term economic growth and job creation. Manufacturers in Nigeria have renewed call for urgent reform in the power sector, warning that unreliable electricity supply and persistent import bottleneck are driving up production costs and undermining the competitiveness of local-made goods. The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria (MAN) said many factories continue to rely heavily on self-generated power, spending significantly on the diesel and alternative energy to keep operations running. According to Director General of MAN, Segun Ajayi Kadir, energy cost now accounts for a substantial portion of manufacturing expenses, making Nigerian production more expensive than import and weakening the sector's ability to compete both locally and internationally. Ajayi Kadir also highlighted ongoing challenges at the port, including delays in clearing raw materials, high logistics costs, and foreign exchange constraints, which he said are disrupting production schedule and increasing operational risks for manufacturers. Moving on to security, renewed attack by insurgency in part of Borno State left dozens dead this week. Residents of affected communities reported assault on civilians, military positions, and infrastructure. Security agencies say operations are ongoing to neutralize the attackers. Fear has spread across Kaduna State following fresh incident of mass kidnapping involving villagers and worshippers in separate attack by armed gunmen. Local sources say the attackers struck multiple communities, abducting residents from their homes and seizing worshippers during religious activities before fleeing into surrounding forests. Although exact figures remain unclear, community leaders say dozens of people may have been taken, raising renewed concerns about security in rural and semi-urban areas of the state. The attacks have forced many residents to restrict movement, suspend night activities, and increase community vigilance as families anxiously await news of their adopted relative. Traditional rulers and civil society groups have condemned the attack, calling on security agencies to intensify patrol, improve intelligence gathering, and dismantle criminal hideouts operating within the state. The last incident has once again highlighted the persistent challenge of kidnapping in northern Nigeria as communities continue to demand decisive action to restore safety and public confidence. The Nigerian military has successfully rescued 11 abducted persons during a late-night operations along the Kaduna-Abuja highway, one of the country's most critical transport corridors. Military authorities said the operation was intelligence-driven, following actionable information on the move of suspected kidnappers within the area. Troops were deployed swiftly, leading to a coordinated raid that forced the kidnappers to abandon their captives and flee into nearby bush paths. The rescued victims, including women and elderly persons, were immediately evacuated to a secured location where they received medical attention and psychological support. Security sources confirmed that no casualties were recorded amongst the rescued individuals or the military personnel involved in the operations. The armed forces said clearance operations are ongoing to track down the fleeing suspect and dismantle criminal camps operating along the highway. Authorities have reassured commuters and residents that security presence along the Kaduna-Abuja road has been reinforced with increased patrol and surveillance aimed at preventing further attacks. The highway has remained a major concern due to repeated incidents of kidnapping, making the latest rescue operation a significant boost to public confidence in ongoing counter-kidnapping effort. The Nigerian police force has announced the intensification of security patrol across major cities, including Abuja, Lagos, and Ibadan, as part of efforts to comb rising criminal activities and strengthen public safety. Police authorities said the operation involved increased visibility patrol, strategy stop and search operations, an enhanced deployment of personnel to identify crime-prone areas. According to the force headquarters, the initiative is designed to deter criminal elements, prevent violent crimes, and reassures residents, particularly during peak movement hour and late night period. The police also disclosed that the patrols are being conducted in collaboration with other security agencies and community vigilante groups, ensuring improved intelligence sharing and rapid response to incidents. Residents have been urged to cooperate with security personnel and report suspicious activities as authorities stress that community support remains critical to sustaining the gains of the operation. The police command says the intensified patrol will be sustained nationwide as part of broader efforts to restore confidence in public safety and law enforcement. Security experts and civil society organizations have renewed call for the full implementation of community policing as a sustainable response to Nigerian persistent security challenges. They argue that locally driven policing structures would improve early intelligence gathering, strengthening trust between citizens and law enforcement, and enhance rapid response to security threat. According to the expert, many crimes ranging from kidnapping to armed robbery could be prevented if communities are empowered to share information without fear of reprisal. Civil society groups also stress the need for proper training, accountability framework, and adequate funding, warning that community policing must not become an informal on unrelated security arrangements. While acknowledging recent efforts by the Nigerian police force, analysts said community policing should be institutionalized nationwide with clear role for traditional leaders, youth groups, and local authorities. They insist that without community ownership of security, military and police operations alone may not deliver lasting peace. This week, the National Assembly intensified its focus on security, budget oversight, and police reform as lawmakers push to address rising insecurity and strengthen governance ahead of the 2027 election. In Abuja, plenary sessions were dominated by debate on funding for security agencies. The House of Representatives, led by Speaker Tajuddin Abbas, demanded detailed accountability report from the Ministry of Defense, the Nigerian Police Force, and the Department of State Services, insisting that public resources must translate into measurable improvement on the ground. The House Committee on Defense, chaired by Honorable Abubakar Lawa, emphasized the need for greater operational transparency, including periodic audits and public disclosure of expenditures by security agencies. Committee's members noted that these steps are critical to restoring public trust in national security institutions. On the legislative front also, the House revisited proposals aimed at strengthening penalties for kidnapping, terrorism, financing, and organized crime, particularly the Anti-Kidnapping Amendment Bill 2026 and the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act review. Honorable Fatima Suleiman, a key sponsor of the bill, stressed that harsher sanction would deter criminal network while ensuring that perpetrators face swift justice. In the Senate, chaired by Senate President Aliyu Abubakar, debates focused on budget oversight and the alignment of appropriation with security priorities. Senators called on ministries and agencies to provide quarterly performance reports to the National Assembly, highlighting gaps in execution and recommending corrective measures. Lawmakers also underscore broader policy reform, including improved intelligence sharing between the military, police, and civil authorities, and streamlined processes for prosecuting high-profile security cases. Senator Chinyere Okeke, chairperson of the Senate Committee on Interior, noted that these reforms are designed to strengthen both preventive and reactive measures, ensuring communities across Nigeria are better protected from emerging threats. On the judiciary section, courts across Nigeria have resumed full sitting this week, following the holidays period, with the judiciary moving swiftly to handle high-profile cases and public interest litigation. In Abuja and Lagos, judiciary proceedings have commenced against several military officers accused of alleged involvement in the coup plot targeting the Tinubu administration. Legal analysts note that the cases are being closely monitored, the security and defense officials providing briefing to ensure that investigations and trials adhere strictly to the law. Meanwhile, human rights organizations have filed lawsuits challenging the alleged unlawful detention of civilians and public figures in connection with the ongoing security investigation. This suit emphasized the importance of due process, fair trials, and constitutional safeguard, reminding authorities that the rule of law must guide all proceedings, even aimed at national security concerns. Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Olumide Adeyemi, in a statement issued this week, reiterated the judiciary's commitment to transparency, impartiality, and the protection of fundamental rights, while assuring the public that high-profile cases will be handled expeditiously without compromising legal standards. On the entertainment scene, Nigerian entertainment industry made waves this week, with stakeholders calling for stronger regulation, increased fundings, and policies that support creative growth. Industry's leaders said that the investment in production infrastructure, copyright protection, and talent development is essential to sustain Nollywood's global competitiveness. The music scene, Nigerian artists continue to dominate streaming charts across Africa and beyond, with hits from Afrobeat, R&B, and gospel artists receiving millions of play on international platforms. Analysts note that Nigerians' cultural exports are not only generating revenue, but also enhancing the country's soft power on the global stage. Meanwhile, cultural festivals have returned in states like Lagos, Enugu, and Edo, drawing thousands of visitors to celebrate Nigerians' rich heritage, arts, and local traditions. Organizers say the event boosts tourism, creates jobs, and encourages integrational participation in cultural preservation. Nigerian sporting landscape was vibrant this week as the Super Eagles intensified preparation for upcoming international fixtures. Coaches and technical staff focused on technical drill, fitness conditioning, and squad cohesive, aiming to ensure peak performance ahead of key qualifiers and friendly matches. Fans eagerly anticipate the team's display, with ticket sales and viewership on rise. At the domestic level, NPFL matches across cities including Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Enugu offering thrilling football action, with several clubs showcasing emerging talent and competitive gameplay. Analysts highlight that the league's growing professionalism is helping to mature local players who can transition to international clubs. On the international stage, Nigerian athletes deliver notable performances across athletics, boxing, and swimming competition, bringing home medals, improving rankings. Sporting officials said this result underscores the importance of sustained investment in training facilities, coaching, and grassroots development programs. And that concludes the Papyrus Global Television Sunday News Round, a recap of the stories that shaped Nigeria this week. Thank you for staying with us. For continuous updates, analysis, and in-depth reporting, remain connected to the Papyrus Global Television. And for more news updates, visit thepapyrusdaily.com.